talking with Ken Larking, Danville City Manager, on All About Danville, a service of Wilkins and Company Realtors. And we have talked about the River District. We have talked about, of course, the giant casino and what's going to come from that. The city is also, in the last 20 years, we've seen the role of the city in terms of economic development change. Again, it's not unlike what's done with the River District. It's the realization that we can do things to set the stage for private investment. You don't have to go in and buy 7,000 acres and do everything, but you can do it here, do a little bit there. And I'll get you to point the obvious. There are no two communities in Virginia that cooperate quite like Danville in Pittsylvania County. Again, for those of you not from Danville, it's an independent city. It's not like if you live in Chicago, you are also a resident of Cook County, Miami-Dade County. The cities are completely different entities from the county, and the city and the county for many years got along about like Boss Hogg and the Duke boys, okay? It was not pretty, annexation and whatnot, but that's been a sea change, and you plus the county have been able to get an awful lot of great stuff accomplished in just the past decade.
Absolutely, and it started again before I got here. Right. Visionary leaders in this community said, we need to do something, and to improve the economic outlook for our entire region. Yeah. And it can't be done just by Danville, and it can't be done just by Pittsylvania County, because each of us has its own assets. Sure. Danville is an urban center. It's got urban-like qualities, and then Pittsylvania County has a lot of land. So we were able to work together to mostly get industrial parks located in the county with funding from both the city and the county. We share things equally. And then whenever we land something, then we share the revenue equally. And it's been a great success. And, of course, we have partners at the state level and other, Tobacco Commission and other organizations at the federal level even, that put money in toward making these things happen. And you're right, the industries that are looking at locating it anywhere, they don't want to just go to a large field with trees or whatever and say, yeah, we're going to plant something here.
Pad ready is the term that I've come to learn in the last few years.
Well, the amount of time that it takes for an industry to build their facility is time lost in production. Sure. Yeah. So anything that you can do to cut down the time for them to make a decision and get a building up and running, get people hired, and get to work to building whatever it is they're building and selling, that's money in their pocket. So,
and again, that process, government can do it a little bit better than private industry simply because they can, it's available for any private industry, the one that locates there. Okay, we just did $4 million of grading on this, this mega lot here. We just saved you $4 million. Now let's talk business. So it moves you to the top of the list a little more often.
Well, when everybody else is doing it.
Yes, exactly.
You kind of got to do it.
It is insanely competitive for these, particularly the big boys. We're throwing around not 6 figures anymore, but 7 figures, not 7 figures anymore, but 10 figures. Boggles my mind, but it is competitive.
That's correct. And, I'm proud of the fact that the work that has been done starting before I got here and continuing forward. Since 2018, we've announced about 4,000 jobs in both Danville and Pittsylvania County and over $1.3 billion of capital investment. So, without that, who knows where we are.
Yeah. And a lot of it, again, in partnership with Pittsylvania County. The most conspicuous part of the partnership right now is sitting out on 58, the Berry Hill Mega Park. It is mega, no doubt about it. It's big. And it has also been the source of a lot of frustration lately for some very high-profile near misses. But I don't think it's Pollyanna to say, though, that something big is going to come there. This is just too good a site, too big, too well located, too well served to be sitting vacant for long. It's just it's not if, it's when. But I know it's frustrating for everybody.
Yeah, it can be frustrating. But the fact is we've been the bridesmaid multiple times,
right?
And unlike sports, where the New England Patriots come back every year and compete for the Super Bowl,
right?
Once somebody selects a site,
that's over.
Then they've retired.
Yeah, exactly.
So it'd be like Tom Brady retired, and you don't have to worry about him anymore. So we've got a really good shot.
Plus, there's no second place trophy in economic development.
There isn't a second place trophy, but we are a very competitive site. It's site ready. A lot of companies have said they like it, and for one very small reason or another, it just hadn't worked out, and that's okay.
Sure.
It's got to be the right fit because if they just come to a site because we've thrown a bunch of money at them and this and that and the other, when that runs out, and it always does, then they might just be like, well, it doesn't make any sense to be here, and they go off somewhere else. And what are you left with?
Got this big Leviathan, yeah.
So you got to have the right fit. Yeah. And that's what we try to focus on. What's the right fit for our community? What's good for us? What's good for them? And then if it works, then we work together to make it happen. And it will happen.
We're talking with Danville City Manager Ken Larking on All About Danville, a service of Wilkins and Company Realtors. And we'll close out by, I always like trying to get people to look into their crystal balls, but I'm not going to ask you that because 10 years ago, there's no way we could have envisioned where we are in 2023. Shoot, Ken, we can't figure out. I mean, just a couple of years before the pandemic, things look different. Everything's going to change. It just seems the pace of change is accelerating now, particularly in this last generation, particularly in this last 5 or so years. But there are, in doing news, I am using terminology now that I've never used before to describe the events that are happening here in Danville in Pittsylvania County. As city manager, you've got to be grounded, but you've also got to have one foot out ahead of everything. And yes, I'll get you to brag on your folks. You got some good folks in economic development, tourism, even the city attorney. We won't talk much about him, though. but it's a pretty good team down there that, again, tries to stay one step ahead without getting too far ahead. I guess that's the goal.
Yep, I have a great team. All of our department heads and city staff throughout the organization, they do an incredible job, and I'm blessed to be just a part of the team and make things happen. But, if I'm going to describe – if I think about all the department heads and the work they do, they really care about what they do. They care about the city of Danville. They want to do a great job. And the evidence is out there. I mean, a lot of people come to Danville and look at the streets and they say, this is a beautiful city. The landscaping looks nice. You don't see trash flying around everywhere. It's, obviously people must care about Danville. And that says a lot to a lot of people. And I appreciate that. Of course, with economic development, we've been very successful. Like I said,
sure.
It's not just a job. It's a passion.
There's an enthusiasm among the city employees that was not always there. Now, again, we've got very tangible things to be enthusiastic about. Let's be honest. But even then, I mean, there is one thing Hampton and I have talked about in earlier podcasts is that our area has developed as a defense mechanism, I believe, sort of a scarcity mindset. And it happens. If you've had the two economic pillars that's carried you for more than a century yanked out from under you simultaneously, you're going to get a defense mechanism. You're going to be guarded. You're going to be cautious. You're going to focus on what you don't have. I mean, that's a human reaction. But we are, I think, collectively are turning that corner to where the average Danvillian doesn't tell you why it can't work. They tell you, here's how we're going to make it work. There's an enthusiasm, and you splash that in with some of the good old determination that we learned working at the mill and working in the tobacco fields. When you fuse that, there's an enthusiasm now that might not have always been there.
That's right. We've got a lot of opportunity. Some of it might be luck. Some of it might be preparation. I think it's always a little bit of both.
Branch Rickey said luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
That's right. And I think that's what's happened in Danville. Good things have been happening to us, whereas, if you look back 15 years, you might say, oh, a lot of bad things are happening. But, and it's been because of the work of a lot of people that really care about Danville and Pennsylvania County. If I think about it, I've lived here 10 years, so it's the longest I've ever lived anywhere. If I talk to people who move to our community, it's like there's some hooks or something that Danville, the community, like kind of gets you, and you fall in love with the place.
Yeah.
And, that doesn't happen everywhere.
No.
And part of the reason is because you can feel connected to what's going on.
Right.
So a newcomer can come to Danville. If they care about, participating in the community in some way, there's always a place for you to plug in. And a lot of times you can plug in some kind of high leadership role.
Yeah.
And we welcome that here, which isn't the case everywhere else.
That's not always the case. Yeah, Danville may have a reputation like small towns of being very parochial, not liking them outsiders. But no, that's even when I was a kid, that was never the case here. Of course, I got hooked at birth, I guess.
That's right.
College was the only time I spent away from here. But Ken, we are in the middle of a lot of excitement, and thank you for helping to steer the ship. Again, you're going to defer to others as you should, but but you're the right guy at the right time, I believe, in terms of temperament, in terms of leadership, and in terms of turning and unleashing this team you have, this team of positivity on people. The city council meetings are not as interesting as they used to be. Let's put it that way. From a new standpoint, it's much easier on the blood pressure to watch them now. Not that they agree on anything. We had a 6-3 vote last night on utility increase. So there's good disagreement. You always got to have that.
Absolutely.
But everyone seems to be on the same page now. On the council comments, there's 9 people commenting. It's all positive. Here's what's going on. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing. That's not an accident.
Yep. And it's we've got creative people in leadership on council, my department heads and city staff, and I feel like in my role, I have to be open to their creativity.
Yeah.
Because with the creativity and a little bit of risk taking here and there, we actually get things done. We start to move the needle, and we move it faster than we would otherwise. Because if I'm going to be honest, I'm a bureaucrat, right? And got a little bit of a government bureaucrat mind. I'm like always focused on, okay, we have to think about the policy. What's the law say? Do we have money for it? Let me look this up. And, sometimes we have to be a little more nimble than that. And I get pushed a little bit here and there. But, I
know who does the pushing, too. I don't go say anything.
But I trust the work of the people. Yeah. And we find a way to make it happen. And when it does happen and it turns out great, then we can all celebrate. And that makes me feel good.
Danville looks a whole lot different than it did 10, 15 years ago. It's going to look a whole lot different 10 or 15 years from now. One of the things we like to say in our podcast is that just like as the casino and other entities, we didn't even talk about the White Mill development. Oh, by the way, it's pretty dadgum big, too.
That's huge.
In addition to the change that those are necessarily going to create, we're going to have to make change, too, to take maximum advantage of the opportunities that are offered by the casino, the White Mill, and Lord knows what else is coming down the pike. We're going to have to make the change, but it's going to be a good change. And with people like Ken Larking helping us, we're going to be in good shape when we do All About Danville circa 2038. I don't want to think about that far. This has been Danville City Manager Ken Larking. Thanks a lot for showing up, and thanks for the positivity. And I've been doing news here since 1989. I can't remember. I've remembered years where it was like reading your own obituary. It's not like that anymore. It's a lot more fun now, and you and many others have a role in that. Appreciate you taking time with us today.
It's been my pleasure, Chuck, to have the time to do this, and really appreciate the opportunity, and also thanks to Hampton,
yes,
who, by the way, actually drove me around Danville.
He does that. He will, and again, Wilkins and Company Realtors, if you're thinking about coming to Danville, this is no joke. You can call and they will arrange a private tour of Danville for you.
That's right.
That's pretty good.
and the man himself did it for me. And I was just going to be deputy city manager. Who knows what the future would have happened? He could have been here for a year and gone. I don't know. Sure. But he took the time to drive me and my family around and show me all the parts of Danville that I needed to see. And he's a great cheerleader for our community.
Hampton Wilkins and Wilkins and Company Realtors, they don't just talk it, they do it.
Yep.
For Hampton and for Ken Larkin, I'm Chuck Vipperman. Thanks for watching All About Danville, and tune in the next time when we look at this community that we all love. We'll see you next time.